audiences, their responses?
Yeah, firstly, I think the respect for self and each other. That's the first thing. And this earth, this world, the universe is supposed to be balanced and peaceful. And man, in fact, what man does with it is, the destruction and the so on and so forth. So the one on the second side of the first album, we talked one piece of work for the second side. On the second side is peace and love, and the message in that is, we can have peace and love. We can live as one and respect each other, and everybody loves peace. So why ain't it happening? So that was our thing. We would like to have, a peaceful world. And if everybody thought that way collectively and individually, it can happen. Maybe not in our lifetime. A little
So
drop
Rob,
of water.
does that make sense, Rob? Like in terms of, I'm trying to connect the concept of the music, the African roots, and the message. On a spiritual level and on a political level, whatever.
What you got to understand with my whole thing is I grew up, this is my father, so, growing up with that knowledge that, black is beautiful and black is strong and whatnot, and just growing up, I never really had that type of fear of the other man, if you will. Didn't grow up looking at the Mac, Superfly. I didn't grow up thinking that pimping was cool. I grew up loving my people and loving Africa and loving the fact that I am of that, and knowing that that it's all beautiful. And what happened is now with this rap that I'm doing, it's funny because I still seem to be going uphill against a lot of the people that grew up, because a lot of my quote unquote peers grew up on the Mac, grew up on Superfly, grew up on P.D. Wheatstraw and all these other guys, and they glorify it, and they're walking around, looking crazy and acting crazy, and all the time I can fall back on my upbringing because it's so natural for me to just respect other people and respect human life and just be a person who is of love and whatnot. So I have songs like Black Woman, I have songs like Keep It Live, I have songs like Hip Hop Changed the World and whatnot, which is talking about the good in a lot of the stuff, I started out battling and whatnot, but growing up under Mandrill, it allows me to not fall for a lot of corny music. And it allows me to know that you got to step up. Like a lot of people respect certain artists for their one hit or whatever. And when I see it, I'm like, they don't know who my father is. They don't know who my uncles are. And so a lot of people are like, oh man, he killed it. Did you see that drum solo? I was like, you ain't seen the drum solo. You don't know. And I see these guys, I go to Odunde sometimes, see these cats on the congas or the drums or whatever, and I said, man, my pops would kill these cats. So, the whole thing is, when you see a certain level of performance and a certain level of music and whatnot, everything else kind of pales in comparison. I'm sure James Brown's father or James Brown's children, they see a dude on stage kind of working the microphone, kind of doing something, they kind of getting like, yeah. So when I see cats on stage that are doing, they got their horns and whatnot going okay, but it's not the power that I see when I see Mandrill, And I try to convey that with my rap, like with the whole same thing. When I go on stage, there's a one person on stage as a soloist.
That's perfect. So we can tie this back in and then for just by Dr. Rick, just tell me from your experience the power of music. It seems to me like music more than any other medium on this planet has the power to convey, like what you're saying, positivity as well as negativity.
Sure. Music is a very powerful force. First of all, it's healing. There's no question about that. Music can heal so much of our maladies. But music is also very universal, and music has no borders. And that's the power of music. The fact that people feel what you're doing even though they don't necessarily understand the words. We get, because of the internet, we were talking about this earlier, the internet has given us a global reach. And as a result of that, you instantly can feel who is responding to your music. So we have hundreds of thousands of hits from Brazil, hundreds of thousands of hits from Japan, people coming to the website and getting into the music, hundreds of thousands of hits from France, from Germany, Africa, all over the world, you know, and it just allows you to realize the power of what we're doing. You know, it's not just a provincial situation; it's a global picture. And
Doc, to add this about the hits, we were getting that with Polydor also.
Oh, absolutely.
But the advent of the internet, it just made it. You know, we were getting overseas, you know, a lot of overseas fans.
Yeah, but
all over. But this is just so much faster and more instant.
Exactly. The situation with Polydor, as Lou was just saying, Polydor, and this was unbeknownst to us when we first signed with them. Polydor was a. Oh, okay, is it getting real heavy? Okay.
It is whatever.
It is the beauty of Polydor, and we did not realize this when we signed with them. We knew they were a good company, but they were a subsidiary of a company called Deutsche Grammophon. And Deutsche Grammophon was the largest company in the world. They were distributing, back in the day, they were distributing records for Colombia and all over the world, South Africa, South America. And so when Mandrill became a part of Polydor, without us realizing, we had records distributed in a lot of countries that we had never visited. That allowed us subsequently to go to those countries. For example, we played South America. We went to Venezuela. We played a place called the Polydor, which is like a 20,000 seat hall that we headlined, and sold the place out without ever being there before. But that was the power of the record company, Polydor, who had distributors in the country, and they pushed our music, and this was happening all over the world.
Also the eclectic nature of your sound.
And the music was something that people were able to appreciate. And that's what we're seeing now. We're not with Polydor, but we have a website and we're on the internet. So it's that type of global reach. And what I wanted to wrap up in terms of what I was saying, the power of the internet and the power of the music also makes us realize that we need to be responsible. You know what I'm saying? Music is very powerful. It's healing, but it could also be very damaging if it's used in the wrong fashion. And that makes us realize the position that we're in, as Ra was just saying, in terms of using music and sharing music in a responsible fashion, because everybody's listening to the music. We were at an in-store today, and it was so beautiful because there were some young kids there. Young kids, one young man playing a saxophone, another young lady getting into music, and these are young kids that are looking to us as for guidance. So we got to come up positive. We got to come up positive.
One beautiful thing, talking about the kids, when we were at the radio station, yes, I had to hold this closer to the phone. When we were at the radio station, a child called in, 13 years old. He said, "I love that song, Fence Walk." And you know, that made us feel so good, so good. And then we met him at this signing event.
He came to the in-store.
His dad was there with him. He's a saxophone player.
Yes.
And he loves Fence Walk. He's writing Fence Walk out, and that touches the heart. That's really so beautiful.
So I mean, we're familiar with your classics, the reissues, and the anthologies, but talk about the new music that you're creating. And the fact
talk about
the new music that you're creating.
Yes.
The fact that you have your own record label.
The label that we have is our own. Our own label is called Wilson Brothers Records. We not only have Mandrill on the label, but the One Sunline Raw is currently being launched from that label. We are in the process of recording our next album. The going title right now is We Gotta Get It Right This Time. It'll feature a song called We Gotta Get It Right This Time. There's a song that Lou has penned and a bunch of others, but a song that I'm looking forward to sharing with folks, a thing called The Vow. That's going to be a very, very powerful tune. There's another song, Who Got the Funk, that we'll be performing at the show tomorrow night.
That's Who Got the Funk.
Who Got the Funk.
There's an answer to that. Y'all might know it. I don't know. Yeah.
But the next album is going to be a very, very powerful presentation. Ra's album, Fire in the Sky, the One Sunline Ra's album, Fire in the Sky, is not it's an EP. So he'll be following that up as well with a more complete
It sounds like you guys
project.
really got into the political issues as much as just the humanity issues. Using the force of your sound to bring people together.
Well, I missed the first part of what you
You
said.
never really got into politics as much as.
Quite simply because politics comes out of the human condition. I mean, the human condition first, you see, and then the politics, the psychological treatment of one power source to another, the slickness, the games that are played. You see, politics is a very heavy game, you know. And some tribes, everybody eat, everybody shares the food, everybody is designated, to do one job or another job. And when those jobs are done, everybody gets together in the center of the village and share and celebrate. And it's so cool like that. No power tripping.
This comes from being in Panama or traveling?
Well, this just comes from watching the tribes of the world, the early tribes of the world in different places, how they carry some matriarchal societies, some paternal, society, and functioning as one body where everything is always cool. No game, I'm going to elect this cat because,
So, who came up with the name Mandrill?
Mandrill was introduced to us by our first drummer, Charlie Padro. We were looking for a name. The Wilson brothers were putting the group together. We put an ad out in the paper, and we got some members. We got Claude Cave first, who was a keyboard player, first keyboard player. Then Omar Mesa, who was our lead guitar player, joined us, and then Charlie Padro, our drummer, and then Bundy Cenac, our first bassist. And we were looking for a name. We were thinking, should it be? We were thinking of a bunch of names. And Charlie said, I saw this animal in Central Park Zoo. We went to the zoo. It was a mandrill. And we all fell in love with the mandrill. That was the very first album cover. That mandrill, whose name is Ringo, was on the first album cover. And for a bunch of reasons, we decided that this should be our logo. It was African-based, very, very powerful, very intelligent. They protected each other. We felt that could represent us.
It sounds like you spent as much time jamming and woodshedding and perfecting your craft as you did possibly in deep discussions about the nature of the world and the nature of your creativity.
Yeah, and again, that kind of attitude in living our lives with our parents and our friends in the neighborhood that we live kind of came as a natural thing. Not too much TV. We had time. We sat as one when it came time to eat dinner. So the discussions would happen. I see folks now. I mean, I even do it now. I take my food in front of my TV and check it out. I mean, this is time. Times, but time with the family is a very important thing where you have discussion. You exchange ideas about what is going on in the world that you in fact live in. So that strengthens the knowledge obtained in process. You did. So. And
then just having the family. One of the problems that we're dealing with today is that families are going by the wayside. You know, you have a lot of babies having babies, and the kids growing up without parents in the home. Parents either a single parent, or if they're lucky enough to have two parents, those parents are out working trying to make ends meet, and don't have a chance to sit as a unit and have share a meal and share love and share that experience. And that's creating a negative spiral, I believe, in our community. And that's one of the things that we really need to try to get back to.
He lost a life.
Yeah.
But that's great. Now I should let you know. I was at the Dell show. I guess maybe 5 years ago or 6 years ago.
Yes.
I guess that it was the first time you performed in a long time. Live is that? Maybe it was that long.
No, we were there. We were there in 2002. Yeah, we were there. I think that was the same year that we did the Montreux Jazz Festival. We played at the Del
It was
East.
a War Mandrill show.
Right, exactly. That was
My understanding is that you guys had broken up and stopped performing together.
No, that's a misunderstanding, and
Where'd you get that from?
in the
The show, being there at the show.
Oh,
It was the
no.
first time we performed live.
that's the time we came here for a while.
No,
Doing a lot of
we
stuff
haven't.
back on the West.
Manager's been doing a lot of stuff, you know. We have not been, in the periods of times that we have not been touring, we've been doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff. We've been doing a lot of soundtrack. We contributed music to soundtrack albums. We did the soundtrack for the music, for the movie Civil Brand, which was a Lionsgate movie that was released theatrically. We've been involved in other soundtracks as well. We've been doing a lot of writing, behind the scenes.
There's like 3 more points.
Yeah. All right.
Talk about like you did back in the 70s, like a lot of your music is very similar. You were blessed with the opportunity to do 2 soundtracks, The Warriors and The Greatest.
That's correct.
How did those opportunities come about, and what can you share with us about that experience?
Go ahead.
Well, we had management that was clever enough to and not only management. The Greatest came about while we were at Arista Records, and we were blessed to have Clive Davis as part of our experience. When Clive was at Columbia Records and we were at Polydor, he actually wanted to sign us. He was trying to get us to come to Columbia, but we were in contract with Padro and couldn't. Went to UA for a brief period of time, and when we were leaving UA, Clive snatched us up. So having Clive in our corner helped a great deal, and Clive hooked up the Muhammad Ali soundtrack along with my Michael Masser, and got us involved in that. So that's how that came about, and I'll let Lou talk about the experience working with Muhammad Ali. We worked at Paramount Studios in California, and Muhammad Ali would spend a lot of time in the studio with us.
Yeah, great experience. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful cats I've met. The greatest. He's the greatest of all time. So I mean, most people might not know this, but he's a prankster too. A good-natured prankster. I'm sitting down in front of the congas. Muhammad Ali, the great one, came to my ear and did something with his thumb and finger. It sounds like a cricket, something like that. I would say, "Hey, brother," he smiled with that mischievous smile. But such a beautiful cat. He came down and he loved what he heard, you dig? And he sanctioned, hey, these are the cats that's going to do the music, along with Michael Masser
Right.
for my story. That's
And
the first.
George Benson.
George
Benson
did a
was on
thing
that
for me,
album
too.
as well.
Yeah, so I mean, that was just a beautiful time. We were so elated, and feeling so good about the champ, the good man that don't take no stuff, you dig? And you see, because they tried to, in fact, ruin his life. And he said, no, I ain't doing that. I'm about peace and love. Boom. So he was right along with our thinking and strong. He said, hey, you can do what you want, but I ain't doing that, So.
It's kind of kismet for that to
Oh,
happen.
absolutely.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Things, no coincidence.
You don't feel that way?
No. don't feel like there's that word coincidental. No, it don't exist. Not from what I've learned about the balance of the universe. For every problem, there's a solution. For every challenge, there is in fact a way to figure it out. And because the thing is balanced, up, down, left, right, north, south. I mean, it is. And sometimes we don't see that in our haste to, oh man, that's taking too long. Well, you're taking the wrong road, or you didn't push the right button yet, or you didn't make the right step, or you weren't quiet enough to hear and feel it. So we believe in the lyrical content that we drop. Sometimes we have to spend time in thought, and it'll come. The answer comes.
So music always comes first. Before the words.
Not necessarily. I think it goes a variety of ways. I don't think there's any particular rule. Sometimes the words will come first and then the music. Sometimes the music will come first. Sometimes they happen simultaneously, But going back to the greatest experience, the other beautiful thing, the contribution that George Benson made was very, very powerful as well. Michael Masser and I forget the other co-writer of the song, "The Greatest Love of All." That's the album that it came from. I mean, it did well then, but it was Whitney took it beyond that, and it was she redid it, and it became an anthem. But that song, "The Greatest Love of All," came from the album that we were a part of that we were a part of with Muhammad Ali. And the beautiful thing about that is that, talking about no coincidence, that song talks about what we have to do for our children, the guidance, let them see the way, and show them the right way.
So you're the band performing on that song? Or
No, that's on the same album. But just the theme,
absolutely.
The theme of reaching out to our kids as part of that on an album that we are a part of. It's just synchronicity is what I'm saying.
Warriors, that's another classic. People
Yes.
in similar circumstances to becoming involved with that one.
Well, the Warriors came about through our manager, R.I.P. R.I.P.'s relationship to the producer of that. We contributed a song to that called "Echoes in My Mind," and it's currently a cult classic. Some Joe Walsh from the Eagles contributed some music on that album. Some other well-known artists. It was good to be in that company.
So then, how do you guys feel about sampling? A lot of people out here making music now don't necessarily have the ability to play 22 instruments, but they have access to it.
We love it, and I'll let Lou.
We feel that it's a beautiful thing. Because it has afforded us a resurgence, so to speak, with the young folk. If their dads didn't have the album at home, and they hear Kanye West doing, a Mandrill lick, they would say, "Hey, who's that group?" And then the name Mandrill would jump up and say, "I gotta get the whole works of this group." So that's beautiful. Everybody's got their own way of putting out what they feel, whether it's musically, verbally, however you put out whatever you feel the gift from the gods are, and there's a way to put it out. They have different words for it. They call it rap, poetry. It's basically this spoken word. They have different, but it's all about expression. And rap is like jazz in its infancy. When jazz was in its infancy, folks are trying to find different routes to express themselves. Yeah, it's a fan. This man here, the one son Lion Ra, is in the hip hop generation. I don't know the exact terminology. But let me hand my son Bryce, the one-son line rather, the mic, and he'll say some more about the rap generation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on sampling?
Well, I mean, the whole thing you have to understand is sampling came about because of the lack of music education at the time when hip-hop was in its infancy, and it became a thing. I liken it to black hair, where they were trying for one thing, ended up with another, and decided to let that be the style. So, like, has a lot of sisters wanted to have the body and bounce, but it just decided to stay hard like a shell. Then they said, well, we can sculpt this and make it look this way and that way, and decided to stay with it a little bit. So with hip hop, the same kind of thing. You know, you didn't have the music, but you knew the music. You didn't have the 50 or 15 or 10 people dedicated who knew how to play instruments or who even had the will or wherewithal to want to play instruments or whatever. But you had these records, and then you had these funky breaks, and it was like, wow, do something over the break. Rap didn't start that way, but what kind of happened was the rapper started bragging about the DJ. And the DJ was playing these funky songs. Because at first, your parties was just your parties. They'd be playing Mandrill, Earth, Wind, and Fire, everybody. That's a lot of your first rappers like Furious 5, Grandmaster Flash, and they kind of look like what Earth, Wind, and Fire look like on stage. Mandrill used to paint their face. These guys, they used to paint their face. The rappers, they was taking after the funk groups that they saw on stage. Rap started in like 75. Probably started earlier, but the first rap record was like 78. Because, things have they have to go through their gestation period or whatever. So the whole thing about sampling is, it wasn't an homage, but at one time they were just getting away with just taking the music. And I would hear my own father and uncle's music and lose my mind. Because at first I thought, when growing up, I didn't know all of James Brown's music. I knew my father's music, but I didn't know James Brown's music. And so I thought these guys were making up these funky tunes. I didn't know they were sampling, because 90% of hip-hop was James at one time. I didn't know they were taking all from James until I heard them start taking from my father. And I was like, what? So then I found out, okay, this is sampling that these guys do, which is also an art. Because everybody can't just take a record and make a hit out of it just because the sound was dope itself. You got to know what sounds are going to be able to go good with your type of style. And you're going to have to know how to break this down. If you want to take this chunk or that chunk, even if you're stealing it, you got to know how to do it correctly and still make it funky, especially if you're trying to do something different than what the original piece was. So sampling in itself is an art. Scratching is an art. All that stuff that they were doing is an art. And so that's the thing about hip-hop, is that they were trying to do one thing, just trying to have some fun and rap over a break beat, which was their favorite piece. Because after that, the horn's going to come back in or the lyrics going to come back in, so they got to take this one piece and use that. But now it's so intricate now, they got, sometimes they get the bassist just to replicate the part that has the singing over it so they can get that chunk. Or they speed up the voice, and now the voice has become part of the actual track in the background. Kanye's big for doing that. So sampling is its own art now.
Okay, well, last two things. So he's talking about art. I'm completely illiterate when it comes to making music. Is there an art to performing live? Like when you're performing in front of so many different types of crowds, are there certain things you fall back on, or is it always trying to get to a certain place?
I think the first thing is that you need to be tight. You need to really have your craft down, and the group has to be tight. Speaking of breaks, you got to know where the breaks are. You gotta love what you're doing. I think first and foremost, you love each other, love playing with each other and playing off each other. And I think that's where it starts, and then it moves from there. That love among us on stage, enjoying jamming with each other as we would be jamming in our mother's beauty parlor, then that's infectious. If we're connecting up here, then we're going to connect with the audience, and that's the origins of it, I believe.
So being brothers, that brings something more to it.
It makes it a bit easier, and sometimes it can make it a little harder. Yeah, don't get it wrong. It comes time to write tunes and stuff. We're not all of one mind all the time. So what chord to use on this or the bop, it's like F sharp minor. Nah, man, G. What you mean, man? Check this out. It sounds better than that. No, it don't. It's subjective, objective feeling about different things. But it comes out in the end. We have learned for brothers, and this is a very heavy It's very heavy. My father, you know, kids can be selfish. You give me the toy, I want the toy, so you have to have supervision. Father say, you share, you dig, and anybody want to fight, fight me, you dig. We ain't got to fight, y'all are brothers. And that's translated, you know, through the years into how we would, you know, still argue about, because the ego gets in you know, it's a part of the trip. My chord would fit the song better than your chord. Yeah, I don't think so, you know, but then you play it. And because of the basic bottom line love, you see, that was instilled, not instilled in us, but, you know, we feel, yeah, from Pops and then, you know, hey, Moms, you know, you don't have to fight about this. We can lay it out on the table, and the thing will happen. The best, you see, the best thing, if we put the ego, as Quincy Jones said, leave the ego outside the door. See, when you step into the studio and it comes out, it always irons out. You'll hear it, you know, you'll hear it, and it's like, oh, okay, your chord, that's, hey.
So is there a song that you just can perform all the time that you love the most, or is it, they're all your babies?
All the good ones we like. Yeah, all the good ones we like.
And last question, so what's next for you guys?
Next,
We talking, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
are we talking individually or collectively?
However you want to lay it out. I would say for the purpose of this piece, collectively, so that we can
Okay,
steer people in the
cool.
same direction.
Well, you know, at my stage of the game, just individually at first, and then, because that goes into the collective. Individually, I've learned so much, you know, on the planet, you dig, and we've traveled many roads. And we'd like to do this for as long as we can, just make the happiness, the happiness that shows on the people's faces when we share, as Rick said, share the vibration and the love that we're putting out there musically and verbally, and what that does to my individual system is just a beautiful thing. And just have joy, a little joy every day in life, and to watch my grandkids grow and communicate with them more, you dig, and just enjoy life on the planet, and give our blessing that we have collectively and individually to those people out there who have not been so blessed, and hope that they have a joyous life also.
just to pick up on where Lou's coming from, going back to the global environment that we're in, and the fact that we are blessed in this stage of our career to have access to the world, direct access to our fans. Totally different than what it was before, where we had to rely upon the record company to put our record here and put our record there and put our music there and put out the publicity here and there. Now it's like one-on-one. We are hearing from our fans. In fact, at this concert tonight, there's a young fan from Nova Scotia, not tonight, but tomorrow night, a young woman from Nova Scotia who said, you know, I've just been introduced to Mandrill and I love you guys. And my fiance and I, you know, really, really love your music. And he doesn't know it yet, but I'm purchasing Mandrill tickets for Philadelphia. They're coming from Nova Scotia to Philadelphia. And this is a gift that she's giving her mate to come here a Mandrill concert. You know, it's like, and to read this on the internet, it's like mind blowing. And we're getting that kind of mail from all over the world. And one of the things that it's encouraged us to do is to make sure that our website will be translated in most of the major languages. We're going to have Portuguese, we're going to have Japanese, we're going to have French, German, just to be able to reach more of the audience worldwide. So I'm excited about the future, present and the future, because it's limitless. And then to be able to be a springboard for artists like the one Sun Lion Ra, who is Lewis's son, and another son, Jadim Wilson, the son of Carlos Wilson, is doing some beautiful stuff as well, and hopefully after Laraz stuff is launched, Shadim stuff will be launched, and then there are other artists that we're working with as well, and it's just it's limitless.
And you continue to practice your cardiology.
Cardiology, I've been in medicine now since 1970. I've gotten to the point where I'm leaning in the direction of retirement. I'm going to be writing. There'll be a book on cardiology for the layman that I'm going to be focusing on as well. So that's another. We could be here another 3 hours talking about that. We'll do that in some other interview.
Yeah.
You're getting some free cardiology care.
You know, I was just going to say, my brother, we're so very proud of him. He's saved so many lives, you know, and that's not usually stated in interviews and so on, but just to this special time here, let us say that he saved a lot of lives. You know, he's a cardiologist, and the heart, you need the pump to make it through, you dig? So he has fixed a lot of folk.
But let me also say this, for me to be able to maintain that career for the amount of years that I did and be involved in music wouldn't have happened without my brothers. There's no way that I could have been in any other group, you know, doing that sort of stuff. We had a gig back in the day. We were living in New York at the time, and we had a gig at Fillmore West where I couldn't get off from the hospital, but I had to commute for the entire week. This is when we were playing with Miles Davis at Fillmore West, a gig that we couldn't turn down. But I couldn't get off from the hospital, so I would make rounds in the morning and just go to the airport. I went back and forth for the entire week. But that sort of thing couldn't have happened without my brothers.
Well, explain that, because it's really well told in the book. Like how, most people don't know the distance that you had to travel.
Oh, it was crazy. I really slept on the plane. Slept on the plane, but just for me to be able to take the time off that I needed to deal with stuff in medicine and then come back in and fall in line with what was happening musically, that wouldn't have happened with any other group. If it wasn't for the love of my brothers who recognized the importance of medicine to me and were able to be there to keep the ship floating while I could go do what I have to do and come back in and fall in line, that's what made that possible.
Here's the visual. The visual is that he rolled up in his doctor's stuff with the stethoscope around his neck, took the stethoscope off, and picked up his sax. It's like, you know, it's like the cat that jumped into the phone booth and changed with a cape. Oh yeah, the cat that jumps in the phone booth and changed clothes, put the cape on and fly. That's what he reminded me of. So just that folks were like, what? Yeah. Oh, that's good.
We danced around a lot. Any final thoughts?
I just really appreciate the work that Reelblack is doing. I want to learn more about it. We're looking forward to seeing this interview as well, and any way that we can be of benefit in terms of networking and getting the word out. We're there, and I really appreciate positive black energy, and that's what we're feeling from both Craig and from Mike, and just keep doing it, man. It's very, 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 very cool.
Okay, so we just have everybody do a shout out. So if you could just give your name and say you're watching Reelblack. I don't know if you want to trade off, if you want to go all three. You can get all three.
Let me ask you this. Now, the total name is just Reelblack?
Reelblack. So like, hi, I'm Dr. Ric Wilson, you're watching Reelblack.
Okay, because they're doing things on YouTube and all of that stuff.
Right,
so.
okay.
Okay, cool. All right, so...
Peace, good people. It's the one Sun Lion Ra, down with Mandrill, Son of Lou, and you're watching Reelblack.
That was cool, son. Now, I am, now, 1, 2, check.
We'll start over. So you go, hey, I'm one son of and then you can say at the end.
All right. Cool.
So don't say you're watching Reelblack, right?
If you say it all together, or say it for Dr. Ric, you can give your name and pass it.
Oh, now we say we're watching Reelblack.
You're watching Reelblack.
If it can fall in together, it'd be
Okay.
great. If not,
Yeah, we can make it fall. We got
Peace.
rhythm.
This is the one Sun Lion Ra.
What's up, y'all? This is Lou Wilson.
This is Dr. Ric Wilson,
And
and you're watching Reelblack.
What?
All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah. Oh.
You're gonna have to edit. You're gonna have to edit this up.
We can.
What do you need from us now?
Oh. He's just gonna take a picture. You guys sign.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Do you have a? I have a marker that may be a little. Oh, this is a marker. Silver. Okay.
Oh yeah, you like
Okay.
I see a picture there.
So I do. Okay. So to.
Oh, just sign your name where the picture is. You might give it away or something.
It's not like you are in your Mandrill phase at that point. It's like before with the thing you got on the sweater vest or something. You know what I mean? So when I see these, man, like a young, like
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm moving out of the picture.
you look like you're in your 20s. I don't know what's that. That'd be like 27, 28.
All right. Cool. What?
You don't do autographs?
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, I just need them to sign.
Yeah.
Well, Rick signed it.
Yeah.
Huh?
No. He wanted a real signature because he was going to give this away or something.
Captain Moment, and then people will pick up the magazine. I don't have to tell
You can
them.
get, look, you can get 50 more of those. Go ahead, right over there.
Oh, it's a white deal. Oh, I didn't know. It's a silver.
Yeah. He just wants. He just.
It's for Lou.
Yeah. I think he just wants.
Let me see.
You pressing hard, Lou?
It's a kind of a crazy pen.
It didn't come ahead. It's not that. Let's do this again.
That's all.
Okay.
All right, thanks.